Hello Army, welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, welcome, because today we have something that dropped very recently and that has sent an extremely specific and extremely exciting wave of speculation through the entire ARMY community in the last several hours. And I mean the entire community, not just Jimin fans, not just people who follow the tour closely, but anyone with any investment in BTS music history and what the next chapter of it might look like. Because today, on May 23, 2026, at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas on the first night of the 4-show Las Vegas leg of the Arirang World Tour, something was captured that nobody was expecting to see. Footage and photographs showing Steve Aoki at the backstage area of the Las Vegas shows, in what appears to be a genuine and spontaneous encounter with BTS, specifically in proximity to Jimin. The timestamp is right there in the footage, 1934, May 23, 2026. This is real. This happened today. And the community's collective reaction, which can be summarized as Wasted on Me Part 2 and also Please Yes Immediately, is something we need to talk about in full. So let's get into it. Let me start with some essential background for anyone who might be newer to BTS's history with Steve Aoki, because the full significance of this backstage encounter depends entirely on understanding what came before it and why the possibility of what might come next is so specifically and so powerfully exciting. Steve Aoki is one of the most recognizable names in electronic and dance music, an American DJ and record producer whose career spans multiple decades and whose work has crossed virtually every boundary between musical genres and cultural contexts. He is someone who operates at the intersection of dance music, pop, hip-hop, and global music culture, and whose collaborations list is extensive enough to include artists from almost every corner of the contemporary music landscape. He is not a niche figure or a cult artist. He is someone whose name and whose work are known to the broadest possible cross-section of the music-listening public, and particularly to the American audience that BTS has been building its relationship with over many years. His connection to BTS and specifically to Jimin came through one of the most beloved and most emotionally resonant collaborations in the BTS extended catalog, Wasted on Me, released in 2019. This is a song that occupies a very specific place in the hearts of people who know it, for reasons that go beyond the music itself into the particular emotional quality of the relationship between the song, its creators, and the community that received it. Let me tell you about why Wasted on Me is not just a good song but a significant one. Wasted on Me was released as part of Steve Aoki's Neon Future 4 project, and it marked one of the first and most significant moments in which a Western electronic music artist of Aoki's profile collaborated with a BTS member not within the K-pop context but within the Western pop and EDM context. The song featured Jimin's vocals in a way that was completely different from how those vocals appeared in BTS's own catalog, stripped back, emotionally raw. The specific quality of vulnerability and longing that characterizes Jimin's voice at its most exposed, deployed in a song whose production and whose sonic world were entirely different from what BTS had produced before. For many Western listeners, Wasted on Me was a discovery, the first time they encountered Jimin's voice outside of the BTS framework, the first time they heard what he could do in a different sonic context, and the experience was almost universally described as stopping them in their tracks. The song is about unrequited love, specifically about the specific and complicated experience of loving someone who cannot love you back, and the specific emotional texture of wanting them to waste their love on you anyway, because any version of their attention feels better than none. The lyrics are devastating in the specific way that the most honest songs about heartbreak tend to be devastating, not through dramatic declarations but through the quiet and precise articulation of something that most people have felt but could not name. And Jimin's vocal performance on Wasted on Me brought something to those lyrics that made them land differently from how they might have with any other vocalist. The specific quality of his voice, the combination of technical precision and genuine emotional openness, made the song feel like a confession rather than a performance. For ARMY who followed the collaboration closely, there is also a specific and touching backstory to Wasted on Me that involves Jimin's particular experience in the recording process. There have been accounts of how he approached the material, how he connected with the emotional content of the lyrics, how the performance he gave was the result of a genuine engagement with what the song was asking him to feel and express. And the result, the actual recorded vocal performance that appears on the track, is something that continues to be discussed and celebrated as one of the most extraordinary things Jimin has committed to recording. So that is the foundation. That is what Wasted on Me is and what it represents in the relationship between Jimin and Steve Aoki. And now, in May 2026, at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Steve Aoki was backstage at the BTS concert. With a timestamp. With video evidence. On the first night of the Las Vegas shows. And the internet is currently in a state that can only be described as controlled chaos. Let's talk about what we actually know from the footage and from the context surrounding it, because there is an important distinction between what is confirmed and what is speculation, and doing justice to this story requires being clear about both. What is confirmed is that Steve Aoki was present at the backstage area of the Las Vegas Arirang Tour show on May 23. The video footage captures this with a timestamp that is not ambiguous. He appears to be in the company of BTS members, and the specific framing of the Jimin connection, which is the part that is generating the most speculation, reflects the community's immediate understanding of the most significant prior relationship between these parties. What is not confirmed is anything beyond the presence itself. There has been no official announcement of a collaboration. There has been no social media post from either Steve Aoki or any BTS member confirming any musical project. The backstage encounter could reflect many things: a social visit from a longtime collaborator and friend, a coincidence of scheduling, an exploratory conversation that may or may not result in anything public, or yes, the early stages of something that will eventually be announced and released. We do not know. And part of what makes this moment so specifically exciting is precisely that we do not know, that the possibility space is wide open, that every interpretation is currently valid, and that the community is in the specific thrilling state of holding genuine uncertainty about something they very much want to be one specific thing. But let's think about what the circumstantial evidence actually suggests, because while we should not overstate what we know, we also should not pretend that context does not matter or that the specific details of the encounter do not point in certain directions more strongly than others. Steve Aoki did not happen to be passing through Las Vegas and decide to stop by a concert casually. Las Vegas on the night of a BTS Arirang Tour show is a specific and deliberate destination. The backstage area of a production of this scale is not accessible to casual visitors, being there requires intention and arrangement. Steve Aoki was there because he chose to be there and because the appropriate arrangements were made to allow it. That level of intentionality suggests that this is not a random social call. It suggests a relationship between the parties that is currently active and engaged, one that involves enough mutual interest and enough current relevance to justify a backstage visit during one of the most significant concert runs of the Arirang Tour. Whether that current relevance is specifically musical or is broader, the relationship between two artists who respect each other and who have a history of successful collaboration is something we cannot determine from the footage alone. But the intentionality is real, and it matters. The timing is also worth considering carefully. The Arirang World Tour is, by any measure, one of the most visible and most culturally significant concert productions happening in the world right now. BTS in 2026 is operating at a level of cultural and commercial momentum that they have perhaps never quite reached before. The Arirang album at #1 on the Billboard 200 for 3 consecutive weeks, sold-out stadiums across North America, the World Cup final halftime show announcement with Madonna and Shakira, the Rolling Stone cover, all of it converging into a moment of extraordinary visibility. For Steve Aoki to choose this specific moment, the peak of BTS's 2026 momentum, the Las Vegas run of the North American tour, as the moment to appear backstage suggests that whatever is happening between these parties is connected to and informed by that momentum. It is not a visit from the past. It is a visit that is happening in the context of the present and, potentially, the future. Now let's engage with the speculation properly, because ARMY's reaction to this encounter and the specific direction that speculation has taken toward Wasted on Me Part 2 is not just wishful thinking. It is based on a real and documented history of how Steve Aoki has spoken about his collaboration with Jimin and about the possibility of future work together. There have been interviews and social media moments over the years in which Aoki has expressed genuine admiration for Jimin's artistry and genuine openness to the idea of working together again. The original collaboration came from a real creative connection, not from a purely commercial calculation, and the kind of genuine creative connections that produce something like Wasted on Me tend to generate lasting professional relationships that find new expressions when the circumstances are right. And the circumstances in 2026 are, arguably, more right than they have ever been for a Jimin and Steve Aoki collaboration. Jimin's solo profile has grown enormously since 2019, from someone who was known primarily as a BTS member to someone who has established a fully realized individual artistic identity, with critical recognition, commercial success, and a body of work that demonstrates the full range of what he is capable of. The collaboration dynamic between them in 2026 would be fundamentally different from what it was in 2019, not because either party has diminished but because both have grown and because the space between them, the creative intersection where something like Wasted on Me lives, has expanded along with them. If there is a Wasted on Me Part 2, and I want to be clear that this is speculation informed by context rather than confirmed information, it would be arriving at exactly the right moment. It would arrive into a world where Jimin's solo profile is at its highest point, where BTS's overall momentum is extraordinary, where Steve Aoki's own continued evolution as an artist gives him new sonic tools to bring to a collaboration, and where the foundation of genuine creative respect that produced the original song is still clearly in place. It would also arrive into a world where the original song has had 7 years to become embedded in the emotional landscape of everyone who heard it, where the specifically painful and specifically beautiful emotional content of Wasted on Me has deepened in people's relationship to it over time, making the prospect of a continuation or a new chapter in that story something that carries genuinely significant emotional weight. Let's also think about what a continuation might sound like, because one of the most interesting aspects of the Wasted on Me Part 2 speculation is the question of how a 2026 version of that collaboration would sound different from the 2019 original. The sonic landscape of popular music has shifted significantly in the 7 years since Wasted on Me was released. Electronic music and its intersection with pop and hip-hop have evolved. Jimin's vocal approach has evolved. He is a different kind of singer in 2026 than he was in 2019, more technically refined but also more emotionally direct, with a greater willingness to expose the most vulnerable dimensions of what his voice can do. Steve Aoki's production palette has expanded and shifted. A 2026 version of this collaboration would not sound like a sequel because sequels sound like what came before. It would sound like what these two specific artists, at this specific point in their evolution, have to say to each other and to the world. The thematic territory that a Jimin and Steve Aoki collaboration in 2026 might explore is also worth thinking about, because the emotional landscape that Jimin has been navigating in his solo work since Face, the themes of identity, authenticity, the complexity of growth and change, the relationship between the person you were and the person you are becoming, provides rich material for the kind of emotionally direct and genuinely personal songwriting that made Wasted on Me so affecting. A 2026 collaboration between these two artists would not need to revisit the unrequited love territory of the original to be emotionally significant. There is a whole world of other emotional terrain that the combination of Jimin's vocal expressiveness and Aoki's production intelligence could explore. ARMY's reaction to the backstage footage has been, characteristically, a combination of immediate emotional response and careful analytical attention. The specific quality of how this community reacts to potential collaboration news, the balance of genuine excitement with appropriate epistemic humility about what is actually confirmed versus what is hoped for, reflects the years of accumulated experience with exactly this kind of teasing but unconfirmed situation. ARMY has learned, through many iterations of this experience, to hold the excitement and the uncertainty simultaneously, to celebrate the possibility without demanding the certainty. And that balance is very much on display in how the community is currently engaging with the Steve Aoki backstage footage. What is certain is that something happened today in Las Vegas that has made a very specific and very hopeful kind of electricity run through the community. Whether that electricity translates into an announcement tomorrow or next week or several months from now, or whether it ultimately doesn't translate into anything that the public ever hears, we cannot know today. But the encounter was real. The timestamp is real. The history between these two artists is real. And the specific quality of hope that ARMY is currently feeling, the hope that the thing they love most about Wasted on Me, which is the specific combination of Jimin's vulnerability and Aoki's production intelligence creating something genuinely new, might be happening again, is a real and entirely reasonable response to genuinely suggestive circumstances. Las Vegas is, famously and entirely appropriately, a city of possibilities. It is a city where the unexpected happens, where chance encounters become significant events, where the energy of a specific moment can open doors that were not previously visible. Steve Aoki backstage at Allegiant Stadium on the first night of the BTS Las Vegas run is a Las Vegas kind of moment, unexpected, suggestive, full of possibility, and completely without the certainty that would make it either definitively exciting or definitively disappointing. For now, it is simply the most tantalizing thing in the ARMY conversation, and that is exactly what it should be. Stay tuned. And if Wasted on Me Part 2 does get announced, when that announcement comes, whenever it comes, remember where you were when you first heard about the backstage footage. Remember that it started in Las Vegas, on May 23, 2026, with a timestamp and a question mark. The best stories always start that way. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, it genuinely helps the channel reach more people. Drop a comment below telling me your immediate reaction to the Steve Aoki backstage footage. Are you convinced that Wasted on Me Part 2 is coming, or are you keeping your expectations cautious? And either way, what would you want a new Jimin and Steve Aoki collaboration to sound like? Subscribe if you have not already, share this with your fellow ARMY, and I will see you in the next one. Purple you all.